Good day. My name is Fred Hurwitz. I'm the president of Bedford Canine Corner. And we're here today to discuss the vote that is coming up on March 12th. Jim?
Hi. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jim Scanlon, and I am here today in only one capacity. I'm here as a dog owner and as a dog lover and as a very vocal advocate of the value of a dog park for the Bedford community. While I do serve on the Bedford Town Council, my interests right now, as they have been for the past 5 years, are solely that as an interested citizen in promulgating a dog park for the benefit of Bedford. To talk more about the values of the dog parks and what the purpose of this meeting is all about, Fred, you want to amplify that a bit?
Thank you, Jim. The purpose of our show today is to talk about the vote that will be coming up on March 12th. In particular, there's going to be an article on the ballot that is directly related to the dog park, and we wanted to both educate you on specifically what the article is and also take the opportunity to talk to you about dog parks in general and why we think this is a dog park would be a benefit to the community here in Bedford. So let me talk a little bit about dog parks. Dog parks are increasingly popular around the country. I don't know if you have, any of you have traveled and noticed them. I have done quite a bit of that myself. I've gone to dog parks in Denver, Colorado, in Sacramento, Denver, Colorado, in Sacramento, California. I've gone to dog parks in Florida, and they're also popular, increasingly popular here in New Hampshire. There's a dog park right now in Derry. There's one in Manchester. There's one in Concord. There's one in Portsmouth. There's several others that are in process of being built. They're increasingly popular. They're an asset. We believe them to be an asset to the community for several reasons. One, and most important, they are a good place for dogs to be able to socialize and get exercise. For any of you who are dog lovers will know, dogs, just like kids, need an opportunity to get their energy out. They need an opportunity to play. Many of us have a lot of property, but not everybody in Bedford does have as much property. Either way, it's very important that dogs have the opportunity to play in a safe environment. Safe meaning that they're fenced in, that they're being well supervised, and also to be able to socialize. Socialization of dogs is very important aspect of proper dog behavior. I happen to, aside from this, participate in training seeing eye dogs, and a very substantial portion of our efforts are related to socialization, knowing how to properly behave around other people and around other dogs. It's very important for dogs to have the opportunity to, frankly, be disciplined by other dogs if they're misbehaving, to be corrected by their owners, and also to properly be able to play. That, in and of itself, actually is a benefit to the community and not just to the owner, because dogs that have learned how to properly socialize also know that when they perhaps meet other dogs, that there is certain behavior that's acceptable and certain behaviors that are not acceptable. I find this all the time. I walk my dogs in and around Bedford, and when we greet other people, you frequently, as you, I'm sure you do, walk your dog out on the streets for exercise for both of you, you'll find that you run into other people with their dogs. And it's very disconcerting when you have a dog that is so stimulated by that they are pulling and you're not quite sure what the dog's attitude is. It's very important for dogs to be able to learn that there's a time and place for one behavior and a time and a place for other behaviors. And I'm going to add one other item in here, which is not the first thing that people normally think about in terms of dog parks. But as I've said, in not only visiting other dog parks, but in speaking to the organizations and the people that run the dog parks, I've really come to believe over the last several years is for me one of the most important reasons for supporting a dog park in town. Dog parks are not only a place for dogs to socialize, they're a place for people to socialize. Not that I like to compare children and dogs, but when we take our children to the playground, I don't have any young children anymore, but when I did, everybody at that playground, every parent at that playground had something in common. They had young children. And they would tend to speak to each other. They would first maybe speak about what was going on in the playground. They might speak about what was issues related to children, what's going on in the schools. And that moved on frequently to many other conversations. I made new friends. I made new connections to the community. I had a place to discuss topics that I was interested in. I frequently became informed about items that were going on in the community that I was otherwise just not familiar with. The same thing is true with dog parks. I've observed this myself. I've gone to the dog parks in Derry, the dog parks in Concord, dog parks other places around the country, and you will see the owners of the dogs have things in common. They all own dogs. They're all interested in the health and behavior of dogs. They start talking about what their dogs are doing on the playground. They start talking about other aspects of dogs' behavior. And they start talking about things that are going on in the community, maybe in terms of dogs, maybe in terms of other issues of the day that are going on. This is, I believe, a very important asset in that, frankly, there just aren't a lot of places and opportunities for people in Bedford to connect to community and meet people they might not otherwise meet. And one other aspect to add to that, we are particularly focusing in on people who have limited space. There are a number of people in Bedford who live in condominiums and have limited space. There are people also in Bedford that have various kinds of physical disabilities. We're organizing the structure of the dog park in such a way that people will have access. You have people with mobility problems, for example, and they'll be able to bring their dogs there for have access to a place where their dogs will be well protected, meaning that it'll be fenced in and there'll be people to help supervise. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Jim?
Absolutely.
Somehow I do that.
There would be 3 points I would make. The first is most of you probably sitting out there have established a corollary relationship, perhaps in your minds, between Fred and I, as one who trains seeing eye dogs and a blind man sitting next to him. Perhaps that's how they come together. And that is not the truth. Our friendship and our relationship is predicated purely on the fact that we are both interested in the dog park. Point number 2 I would make is that in my own travels, and I've just come back from a 2-week trip to Fort Collins, Colorado, and was astounded to learn that with a population of about a little less than 270,000 people, there are as many as 4 separate dog parks in that town, with plans to even build more. Then the third point I wanted to emphasize on top of what Fred has done, I want to augment the advantages of a dog park in the community of Bedford. Fred spoke about the dog owners and how much both they, the owner, and they, the animals, gain by a dog park. Let me add a couple of points about that. We have something in the range of 8,000 households in Bedford, and approximately, Fred was talking about the 3,650 households that have dogs, 1 or more. That's, if a quick calculation on math would give you somewhere about 43 or 44% of the households of Bedford have dogs. That means about 56% do not. So the advantage in Bedford of a dog park to those 56% of the population, that element, is that it is generally recognized, and you will hear it from any reputable real estate agent, that a dog park is an asset to the community, much like a series of clay tennis courts or a series of baseball fields that are well lighted, well lit, or a swimming pool, dog parks in a community are regarded as an economic asset to that community, and in point of fact are the kinds of things that people might ask about as they seek to move from one community to the next. So the advantages to this dog park on the ballot for you, whether you're a dog park, whether you are a dog owner or not, should be clear. There are advantages to both sides of the camp. Fred?
Thank you, Jim. I'll just add one other point. I think it's just, at least it seems to me, curious to note. I mentioned that my wife and I actually raise seeing eye dogs, raise and train seeing eye dogs. The interesting aspect, it's part of a larger organization, and one of the rules that we have in that organization is that we actually cannot bring our dogs in training to dog parks. So the dogs I'm going to be training, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of the dog park. It's the reason for the rules of the dogs are not neutered or spayed, and they're still in the process of learning proper social behavior with other dogs, and we don't like to overstimulate them. So I won't be able to take advantage of it, but I am going to be going to the dog park. Obviously, I'm president of Bedford, of the Friends of Bedford Canine Corner, but in addition to that, I'm going to go to the dog park because I know there are people there who are interested in dogs. It's going to be a place to just go for me, and I know I can have a friendly, interesting conversation with other people who care about similar things related to the dogs. I've had the opportunity, while I've been in this position, to talk with a large number of people in town who are similarly inclined. Just dogs are interesting to us. Dog behavior is interesting to us. I now have a place to go to have that conversation. Today, I have friends, I have relatives, I have, and I think some of my friends might say sometimes I impose the conversation on them. Maybe that's overstated, but some might say that. And I know when I go to the future dog park, there's going to be people there who will probably be interested in taking on the conversation. Well, there, I'm creating community with that. I'm going to be meeting some new people. I'm looking forward to that. I have lived in Bedford now for just about 7 years, and I have tried to increasingly get involved with the community and give back to the community. And the more people I get to meet in Bedford, the more interested I am in learning about Bedford and contributing to Bedford, and that may be true for other people too. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of how we got where we are today, and then we'll talk about what we need to be doing moving forward. The Bedford Town Council, after being approached by some citizens of Bedford, decided about 5.5 years ago, in August of 2007, to create a committee. The committee was created as a subcommittee to the Parks and Recreation Committee. The applicants for the committee, the applicants were solicited here on BCTV and other places. They were interviewed by the town council and appointed by the town council, and their purpose was to investigate the issues associated with having a dog park here in Bedford. That included what turned out to be the very difficult task of locating an appropriate location, as well as other issues, any other issues, including funding and other items that might be appropriate to the creation of a dog park. That committee researched a number of different locations in town. Some of them were, one of them was near Legacy Park. One of them was near, actually 2 sites near Joppa Hill Farm, one on the property of Joppa Hill Farm, and one in that field which is managed by a separate conservation group to the other side of the street from Joppa Hill Farm. There were, I think, a total of 5 that were substantially investigated and several others that were investigated and relatively quickly dismissed for various reasons.
And one more near Camp Allen.
There was one that was investigated by the by the second round of committee in Camp Allen, which I'll also speak about. There is a they for one reason or another, which I won't take the time to review here, after investigation, they found they could not come up with a piece of property that that met all the requirements that they had established for a dog park committee. That committee ended up losing some momentum as a result of that, and I'd say, and approximately 3 years ago, there was a refreshing of the members of the committee. I saw an advertisement here on BCTV for that, and that's when I got involved. So my involvement started about 3 years ago on the committee. Again, that was appointed by the town council. That committee, I eventually became the chairman of that committee. That committee then went back through the same properties that were previously looked at. They made the same conclusions as to the reasons and validated the reasons that those committees had excluded. We actually went back to see if we could solve some of the problems and that excluded the properties, but we found that we were unable to do that. We examined some new properties. The most promising seemed to be the one that Jim was referring to near Camp Allen. It was right by some power lines. Turns out Northeast Utilities had a right-of-way associated with those power lines. And when the town approached Northeast Utilities they required the town to release them from certain liabilities, which the town just declined to do. So that was actually ended up being eliminated too. Eventually, we came upon the idea that there was a parcel of land that was right by the recreational complex that had escaped attention before, frankly, because of the terrain. We examined this. We had a number of people assisting us with it. We looked into people. At one point, people thought it was wetlands. Turns out that the immediate area that we were looking at was, in fact, wetlands. But it pointed us to, or the work that we did pointed us to an area physically very close to there that might be suitable. That location is, if you can put up the first picture, is right off of Nashua Road. That's the picture you're seeing now is the picture of that site. It's across the street from the ball fields on Nashua Road. Literally, as it says, the entrance is right across the street from the sign where Normandeau is, so if those of you happen to know where it is. So basically, halfway between the entrance to the high school and Route 101. That's basically where it is. As you can see from this picture, it is fairly well forested. This happened to be during winter, so a lot of the foliage is not there. And that hill that you're seeing is the first ridge of the hill. There's a second one. That's an approximately 60-foot tall hill that's there, which happens to be, as it turns out, an excellent sound barrier. As is the foliage that will be there during the operation of the park. The park is basically a warm season park, by the way. To the right of the picture you're looking at, so this is the entrance. In front of you and to the left of where you're looking is where the parking space will be. There is a sufficient parking for, I think, if I recall, about 16 cars. And 3 of those spaces will be enlarged specifically for people with limited mobility who want to have access to the park. And to the right of where you're looking at, it really starts on the right end of the picture and then extends off the picture to the right, is where the remainder of the park will be. On this slide, you'll see the layout of the park. What is important to notice is there's the parking area, and then you'll see 2 areas, one labeled small dog area and off-leash area. That's really the large dog area. So that dog park itself is fenced in, and there's a fence between the small and large dog area. So there'll be fenced in places for the dogs. They can be separated between sizes of the dogs. And there will be benches There'll be, and also places in each area for dogs to obtain water, dogs and people. So there'll be water fountains, and the water fountains will be especially for dog water fountains in addition for humans to be able to get water. I want to talk to you about a couple of other items in the few minutes that we have remaining. I'm going to talk to you about the Friends of Bedford Canine Corner. So the Friends of Bedford Canine Corner were formed as a non-profit organization after the subcommittee, the dog park subcommittee, completed its responsibilities, and many of the members, or some of the members of the dog park committee, agreed and were motivated, including myself, to form the nonprofit. The nonprofit really has two main purposes. The purpose is to raise the funds for the dog park, and so I'll talk more about that in a moment. And the second purpose is ongoing fundraising and ongoing promotion of the use of the park. So we see this organization as to continue on after the funds for building of the park are complete, continue to raise funds for the maintenance of the park, and as well as promote use of the park, including various programs and things of that nature. That was the purpose of that organization. There are people interested in that. We have, that organization has received a lot of feedback from members of the community about the ability to be able to raise funds, which seems very positive, about the interest in the community of having a park, and about having what I would consider an active park, a park that is very heavily involved with the community. So that is the purpose of that particular organization. A little bit more about history. I would say generally that our relationship with the town council has been constructive. If you look at the three basic facts of the history of the park, the creation of the dog park committee about 5.5 years ago, that was a positive step. The second was the approval of the property. So the town council has already set aside the land that we're talking about for use by a dog park. The only issue that was really remaining was an issue related to whether or not the park should be leased by the private organization or not, or should it be run as a town park. Our point of view is very simple. That is, we're the people who are interested in continuing on from the time that we were a subcommittee of the Parks and Recreation are very interested in having the park. We're very interested in fundraising and promoting it, but we don't see it as our expertise to run the park. The town of Bedford has 47 existing parks. They have a director that is responsible for Parks and Recreation. We think it's beyond really our set of skills to operate a park, and we think that is better done by the town, and was probably the original intent of those people that were involved in creating the original committee.
So that, if I may just add to that 47 number, quickly, that represents expertise that transcends the definition of a pure park into an inclusion that involves baseball fields, it involves soccer fields, it involves parks, it involves tennis courts, it involves basketball courts. It involves such a diverse collection of recreational facilities that the town of Bedford, with its organizational structure through Department of Public Works, has ample expertise to, as Fred pointed out, better maintain the facility that the Friends of Canine Corner would raise funds for and pay for, both in the construction and the maintenance of that park. The monies required would come to the town from an external source, and the town, in turn, if I understood what you said, Fred, the town would then maintain or operate the park based on its own expertise, but without any expense to the town.
With funding coming from the nonprofit organization. Precisely,
Yep.
Jim. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we are promoting the idea that the town run the park, but the funds for the building of the park, the operation of the park be provided by a nonprofit organization.
Fred, could I ask you a question? Exactly how would the people of Bedford obtain all of this? What steps do we look for from the populace to exercise over the next few weeks?
So very good, thank you. In the sort of limited amount of time that we have available, I want to get to sort of the bottom line. There is an Article 3 that's going to be on the March 12th ballot. That's what we're looking for action on for members of the community. Article 3 is about the dog park, and I won't read the whole thing. It's really, when it comes down to it, very straightforward. Question number 1 is whether or not you would like a dog park in the town of Bedford, built on the parcel of land that we've spoken about, that is privately funded, the funds of which come from a private organization, fully, meaning the full amount is raised in advance of even starting any construction. The question is a yes or no question, and we're hoping that you would want the dog park and that you would vote yes on question 1. There's a second question. Question number 2 is a little bit more complicated. It has an A, B, and C component. A is really asking that the town, when the park is built, that the town take into its annual budget the operational expenses of the town. We're suggesting that you not pick that option. Friends of Bedford Canine Corner will be providing the funds, and frankly, we would not want to see votes split between A and B. B is the one that we are suggesting that you choose. B says that the maintenance of the funds will come from a private organization. That is what we're promoting. That is what we're asking you to do. And C is asking that a private organization lease and run the park. That is to us, it seems like it's not a viable option. There is no organization, Friends of Bedford Canine Corner, nor anyone else we know is willing to do that.
May I add a point to that for a moment, please?
In about 20 seconds we have left.
Okay. Simply put, in 20 seconds, if you mistakenly assume that C represents your best ability to get a dog park without cost, can't happen. And if you vote for the assumption that C gets you a dog park, I guarantee you that C will guarantee no dog park in your lifetime and no dog park in the lifetime of your grandchildren's grandchildren. Vote for box 2B.
Thank you, Jim.
Good.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you all for listening.